I knew something was off when the Christmas card arrived and my stomach didn't drop, it imploded. There it was. Glossy, cheerful, and decorated with fake pine branches and snowflakes. My entire family posed in front of my parents' house, dressed in coordinated red and gold. My sister's kids were front and center. My mom and dad were smiling like they hadn't just screamed at me last week. Everyone was there, except me. Not a trace. Not even a "we miss you, love you," scribbled in ink. Just erased. Like I never existed. And the worst part? I paid for the damn photo shoot. I was the one who sent my mom the Pinterest board full of color palettes and photo ideas. I booked the photographer she wanted, even put down the deposit. I even bought the outfits for my nieces because my sister couldn't afford it after ballet lessons. I'd been begging them to include me in just one family photo for the last 3 years. Every time, there was a reason why it didn't work out. I should have seen it coming. But let's rewind a little. I'm the eldest of 3, and the only one who moved out and stayed gone. My sister Caroline still lives 10 minutes from my parents. My brother Eric pops in when he needs something money, help with taxes, a place to store his crap during breakups. Me? I'm the strong one, the independent one, the "we didn't worry about you" one. Translation, I'm the one they lean on without ever giving back. After my divorce, I moved into a modest 2-bedroom rental and took on extra freelance work just to stay afloat. Guess who still ended up paying for Caroline's baby shower, or helping mom refinance her car loan, or covering the property taxes when dad forgot to file. And they never said thank you, not once. I kept justifying it to myself. They're stressed, they're busy, they love me, they just don't know how to show it. Then came Christmas last year, the first one I didn't go home. I told them I needed a quiet holiday. They called it selfish. Caroline said I was being dramatic. My mom cried on the phone and said she already bought my favorite pie. My dad just said, "Well, it's your decision, but you'll hurt people." Still, I stayed home. I roasted a tiny chicken, poured some wine, and watched White Christmas by myself. It was the first time in years I wasn't walking on eggshells or fake smiling at a dinner table. Then in early January, the card showed up. That card broke something in me. I stared at it for hours, flipping it back and forth like maybe I'd missed something. A tiny photo on the back, a name scrawled somewhere. But nope, it was like I'd been surgically removed from my own bloodline. I texted my mom, niece card, didn't realize I died this year. She left me on read for 3 days, then responded with, "You said you didn't want to be involved this year." Involved? INVOLVED. I felt like I was choking on the word. That was her excuse? That I'd chosen to be erased? Caroline chimed in next. "You're so sensitive. It's not always about you." And that's when I knew I wasn't part of this family. I was the emotional ATM they occasionally guilted into babysitting or bankrolling their whims. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a ghost they called when they needed something. It all came crashing in. The time they forgot to tell me about Nana's funeral until the day before. The group family vacation I wasn't invited to. The emergency fund I built for them that they drained in 2 months. The lie they told my ex-husband about my emotional issues during our custody battle. I'd swallowed every betrayal with a smile, like a well-trained dog begging for scraps. But not this time. This time, something inside me said, "Burn it all down." I still had the original photos from the shoot high-res files unedited. Guess who paid the photographer directly and had access to the cloud link? Me. And guess who was actually in a few of the photos? From when I dropped off the outfits and helped herd the kids into position. Me. I sat at my desk for hours that night, designing my own version of the Christmas card. Their card had said, "Family is everything." Mine said, "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up." I cropped them out. Left only me, smiling with the kids. Added a quote about chosen family. And in bold red script I added, "Guess who paid for this?" Then I printed 100 copies. Glossy, high-quality cardstock. I mailed them to every address in my mom's Christmas list, which she'd conveniently sent me last year to help with postage. Neighbors, church friends, her boss, Caroline's PTA circle. And then I waited. It took 3 days for the first text to come in. "Why did you send this? Is everything okay? What happened?" I didn't answer. By day 5, my dad called. His voice was a low growl, You've embarrassed your mother. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Did I? Because being erased felt pretty embarrassing too. Click. No one said sorry. Of course not. But the silence said everything. The illusion cracked. The grip they had on me, the guilt, the shame, the obligation, it all started to fall away. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The silence lasted 2 weeks. And honestly, I savored every second of it. I didn't realize how loud my family had been in my head until it stopped, like turning off a radio that's been blasting static for years. For the first time, I slept through the night without clutching my phone, waiting for a guilt trip text or a passive-aggressive voicemail. I expected them to retaliate. I didn't expect how. It started with Caroline. Of course it did. My sister has always been the family PR agent, the one who spins every story to make herself the hero and everyone else the villain. She posted a photo on Facebook of her and the kids, captioned, "Some people spread hate. We choose joy." A dozen of her friends commented with heart emojis and prayers. One wrote, "You're such a strong mama. Don't let toxic energy get to you." Toxic, me. Then came Mom. She went the quieter route. She emailed me a paragraph titled, "Thoughts." It wasn't an apology. It was a PowerPoint of emotional manipulation. "You've always been so emotional. We didn't mean to hurt you. We don't know what we did wrong." And my personal favorite, "Your father's blood pressure has been high since your little stunt. We're worried about his heart." That's when the guilt started creeping in again, like mold growing through a crack in the wall. Was I overreacting? Was it really that bad? Did I actually want to be cut off? But then I remembered something. 2 years ago, I had surgery. It wasn't major, but recovery took a few weeks. Caroline never called. My mom sent one text, "Let us know when you're back to normal." I'd been lying in bed with stitches and nausea while they threw a birthday party for Caroline's dog. Not even kidding. So, no, I wasn't being dramatic. I was finally being honest. When I didn't respond to the email, they escalated. My mom showed up at my job. I was sitting at my desk, halfway through reviewing a campaign proposal, when my receptionist buzzed me. Your mom is here?" She says it's an emergency." Panic spiked in my throat like acid. I hadn't seen her in person since before Christmas. She looked exactly the same, flawlessly put together, fake pearls and all. The only thing different was her expression. That fake, pinched smile she wore when she was about to deliver a backhanded compliment or a social bomb. She didn't even sit down. "I just don't understand why you're doing this," she said, arms crossed over her coat like armor. "You're hurting the family. Is that what you want?" I opened my mouth to speak. She raised a hand. "No. You're gonna listen. Your sister is devastated. Your father is stressed. And now you're sending out vile postcards to our neighbors? You want to humiliate us? Is that it?" My voice was shaky, but firm. "You humiliated me first. You've been doing it for years." She blinked like I'd slapped her. "I paid for everything, Mom," I said, louder now. "The photographer, the clothes, the cards, and you couldn't even include me. Not even a signature," she scoffed. "Oh, please. That's what this is about? A picture?" "No," I said. "It's about being erased. And I'm done letting you pretend that's okay." She stormed out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look back. The fallout came quick. My bank flagged a charge attempt from my dad's Amazon account on a card I hadn't used in 6 months. One I'd forgotten was linked to a joint family emergency fund I used to manage before I stopped bailing them out. I changed all my passwords, shut down shared logins, called the bank and reported unauthorized use. Within 24 hours, my phone blew up. "Dad, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Caroline, I can't believe you canceled the account without warning. We need that money." "Mom, we raised you better than this." Every message was soaked in entitlement. Not one asked how I was doing. Not one said sorry. That was the moment I stopped feeling bad. I blocked Caroline, muted my parents, cleaned out the last shared drawer in my filing cabinet labeled family, and fed it through the shredder like a ritual. I started therapy the same week. I told the therapist everything about the card, the years of emotional gaslighting, the financial manipulation. She didn't look shocked. She looked like someone who'd heard this 100 times before. You were trained to make yourself smaller, she said, to carry their burdens so you wouldn't be abandoned. But now that you're not shrinking anymore, they're punishing you for growing. I cried the whole drive home. The thing about standing up to people who raised you in toxicity is that it feels like treason at first, like ripping out a part of yourself. I wasn't just cutting off my family, I was cutting off the version of me that still hoped they would love me the way I needed them to. But part of me, some small, angry, fire-breathing part, was finally alive. And she wanted more. I started going through old emails, digging through receipts, looking at Venmo transactions, old text messages, shared folders I'd forgotten existed. And what I found? It was worse than I thought. Caroline had been using my login to access my streaming subscriptions, order takeout, even use my hotel rewards. My mom had listed me as a co-signer on a car loan without my knowledge. And my dad? He'd listed me as a dependent on his taxes. Last year, it was like they didn't even see me as a real person, just a tool, a wallet with a beating heart. That's when I knew this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. One didn't cry when I saw my name on my father's tax documents. I didn't scream when I confirmed that my sister had ordered over $700 worth of food with my login over 6 months. I didn't even flinch when I saw that my mother had submitted a credit application with my name and social security number on it just in case, she would probably say. I didn't cry, I got angry. There's a difference. I went back to the therapist the next day. She took one look at my face and said, "You found something, didn't you?" It turns out, when you stop trying to be the family savior and start becoming a detective, the world opens up. I began keeping a private folder hidden behind layers of encryption and labeled something harmless like work expenses Q4. Inside it, screenshots, PDFs, scanned forms, downloaded bank statements. A list of every time I had loaned money to my family dating back 10 years. The total was just over $63,000. That number knocked the air out of me. I had worked overtime, canceled vacations, skipped birthday gifts for myself, all to make sure they had what they needed. And it wasn't just money. It was time. Babysitting Caroline's kids at midnight, cleaning my dad's garage when he threw out his back for the 5th time, planning mom's birthday brunch because you're so organized, honey, $63,000. And not a penny had been paid back. The worst part? I knew if I told them that number, they'd laugh, call it dramatic, say it wasn't that serious, maybe even accuse me of faking it. I needed proof, not just for them, but for me. That's when I remembered Michelle. Michelle is my cousin on my dad's side, the quiet one, the one no one invites to family functions anymore because she's too blunt and doesn't understand loyalty, which, in my family, is code for won't put up with our crap. I hadn't talked to her in years, but something told me she'd understand. I messaged her, "Hey, random question. Have you ever had a weird experience with my parents or Caroline? Financial stuff?" She replied in less than a minute, "Girl, sit down. Do you want a Zoom call or a Dropbox folder?" Michelle had receipts. Turns out, she loaned Caroline $3,000 years ago to help cover a custody emergency. She was promised it would be repaid in 6 months. She never saw a dime. When she asked about it a year later, my mom told her to stop harassing the family and accused her of trying to ruin Caroline's mental health. She also had screenshots, emails, even a voicemail from my mom saying, "We just assumed you were helping because you're doing well. I thought you cared about family." Sound familiar? Together, we started digging. Michelle had been blacklisted from the family not because she was a problem, but because she stopped being useful. And now, the same thing was happening to me. Michelle and I started talking daily, swapping stories, timelines, bank trails. I finally said the words out loud, "I think they've been financially abusing me for years." She didn't flinch. "Of course they have," she said. "It's what they do. You were the responsible one." That's code for person we can guilt into anything. With her help, I started organizing everything into a report. Not just for the confrontation I knew was coming, but for legal protection. Identity theft, fraud, and financial coercion don't just make you feel crazy. Sometimes they're actual crimes, and I was ready to fight back. But before I could launch my revenge, I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I needed to know why. Why me? Why was I the designated punching bag, wallet, errand runner, scapegoat? Why did my parents keep choosing Caroline, who lied, manipulated, and used people over me? The answer came from a voicemail. One they didn't mean for me to hear. It was a pocket dial from my mom's phone. At first, it was just muffled noise. Then, her voice came through sharp and smug. I mean, come on. She was always the difficult one. Always so sensitive, always needing attention. She didn't even want kids. What's the point of helping her? My dad laughed. At least Caroline gives us grandkids. What does my name do? Work. Think she's better than us just because she pays her bills. Then Caroline chimed in. God knows where they were, having a full roast session without realizing they were being recorded. She's obsessed with being fair. Like, grow up. Life's not fair. If she really cared about family, she'd stop acting like a martyr. The recording was 2 minutes and 38 seconds of confirmation. They didn't love me. Not really. They loved what I gave them. My money, my energy, my guilt. And now that I'd stopped supplying it, they were circling like vultures, mocking me for bleeding. I sat with that knowledge for a full day, let it harden in my chest like stone. Then I hit play again, and finally I made a copy. The first wave of revenge would be subtle, strategic. I closed the last shared financial account, filed a formal identity theft report, and included copies of the car loan application my mother forged, reported the unauthorized use of my SSN, froze my credit, changed every password I'd ever used, set up 2-factor authentication on everything from Netflix to TurboTax. Then I printed out the report, Michelle, and I built complete with spreadsheets, screenshots, and highlighted timelines. I didn't send it to the family, not yet. I mailed it to myself, certified, unopened, in case I ever needed it in court. Then I did something that was both petty and wildly satisfying. Remember that family friend who always hosts the 4th of July party? The one who loves drama but pretends she doesn't? Her name's Denise. The first sent her a carefully worded message with a few screenshots. Just enough to plant seeds. Nothing false, just illuminating. Within 3 days, I got a text from Caroline. What the hell did you tell Denise? She uninvited us from the lake house. I didn't respond. I was done explaining myself to people who only listened when it cost them something. But this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The thing about revenge is that it's not about making them hurt. Not really. It's about watching them lose the power they never should have had over you. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of them. I wasn't trying to be heard, to be understood, to be loved. I didn't need closure or reconciliation. I needed freedom. And sometimes freedom comes wrapped in fire. The certified report I'd mailed to myself. I opened it one morning with coffee in one hand and a notary on Zoom. I signed an affidavit, attached documentation, and filed it along with my police report for identity theft. I listed my mother as the primary suspect. 2 weeks later, she got a letter from the state, then a call. I didn't have to be there to know how it went. I imagined her sitting at the kitchen table, her perfect nails tapping the counter, face flushed with indignation, her voice dripping with fake innocence. This is all just a misunderstanding. My daughter would never do something like this. Except I did. And I had proof. She called me that night. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, all sugar and acid. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're ruining this family. Whatever you're going through, we can work it out, but you need to stop before it gets worse. Before it gets worse. That part made me laugh, because worse was already knocking. Michelle had done some extra digging and found something even I hadn't seen coming. My dad had claimed me as a dependent for 4 consecutive years after I moved out and became financially independent. That's federal tax fraud. She connected me with a tax attorney who helped me file a whistleblower report. And I didn't just do it out of spite. I did it because I was sick of being collateral damage in their schemes. If they were going to use me as a pawn, they were going to choke on the consequences. But revenge isn't just paperwork. It's public. Remember the Christmas card? Yeah, that was the spark. Now I wanted the whole bonfire. So I created a new card, a follow-up, if you will. This time it wasn't glossy, it wasn't cheerful, it was truth. Front, a photo of me alone, smiling, standing in front of my new apartment. Inside, a message that read, "To everyone wondering why I wasn't in last year's Christmas card. I was busy paying for the clothes, photographer, and gifts then being erased. If you've ever loaned Caroline money, helped my parents financially, or been guilted into family favors, I suggest checking your records. Love, the one they called dramatic. I mailed it to the same list my mom had used: church friends, neighbors, her bridge group, Caroline's PTA circle. Even Denise got a second copy. This time, the fallout wasn't silence. It was fireworks. Denise forwarded it to 2 other neighbors, who forwarded it to their husbands, one of whom was a CPA. He'd helped my dad organize some of those taxes. And now, he was livid. Caroline posted a vague status on Facebook: "Family should be loyal. Blood doesn't make you better. Some people just want attention." I commented, "Attention is expensive. Just ask my Venmo history." She blocked me. Then the emails started rolling in, from people I barely remembered: old babysitters, childhood friends, former coworkers of my mom. One said, "Your card made me cry. I cut my sister off last year. I thought I was the only one." Another, "I knew something was off with your mom. She tried to get a church volunteer to co-sign a loan once." And then the biggest domino fell. Caroline's husband left her. Apparently, he'd been unaware of a lot. The loans she'd gotten from me? She told him it was her savings. The vacations she paid for? Funded through my emergency fund and maxed out cards under my name. When he found out, he walked, took the kids, moved in with his sister. She was scrambling for child support while trying to explain to the school why her PTA dues bounced. My parents? They were suddenly very interested in rebuilding. I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, pages long. My mother's voice was all over it, flowery, manipulative, and terrified. "We've made mistakes, but we never stopped loving you. This family has been through so much. Can't we just move forward? What will the neighbors think if this keeps going?" That last line was the most honest one she wrote. What will the neighbors think? Not, "What have we done?" Not, "How did we hurt you?" But how do we make this disappear? My dad sent a shorter note. 2 lines. "You made your point. Enough now. Let's handle this like adults." It was the first time in my life I saw them scared of me, and it still wasn't enough. So I made one final move. I scheduled a family meeting at my lawyer's office. Didn't tell them why, just said, "Show up if you want answers." They did. I arrived last. Black blazer, red lipstick, a manila envelope in hand. The room was small, tense. My parents sat on one side. Caroline sat opposite, looking like she wanted to crawl out of her own skin. I sat across from them, looked each of them in the eye, and then I slid the envelope across the table. Inside was everything: the money, the screenshots, the fraud, the voicemail, the whistleblower filing, a list of every account I'd closed, every login I'd changed, every favor, every dollar, every secret. "I'm done," I said. "This is not a negotiation. This is notification." They didn't speak. Not at first. My mom's face turned red. My dad's jaw clenched. Caroline looked like she might cry. "I'm not asking for money back," I said. "I'm not suing you yet, but I am free. You don't get to call, text, show up, or talk about me. Not to each other, not to neighbors, not to God. If you do." I nodded to my lawyer. "He knows what to do next." They still didn't speak. I stood. Caroline whispered, "You're ruining everything." I leaned down, smiled, and said, "No, I'm fixing it." Then I walked out, and I didn't look back. There's a kind of silence that comes after a storm, not emptiness, clarity. That's what my life felt like in the weeks after the meeting. Quiet, clean, mine. No more random calls at midnight. No more guilt-laced texts. No more obligation wrapped in manipulation. Just stillness. At first, I didn't know what to do with it. I'd spent so long waiting for the other shoe to drop, bracing for the next emotional ambush. My nervous system was still on high alert, trained for chaos. But it never came. They didn't call. Not after the lawyer. Not after I told them, in no uncertain terms, that I was finished playing the role they wrote for me. Caroline deactivated her Facebook for a while. My mother retreated into vague, cryptic posts about forgiveness and family wounds. My dad? He disappeared into silence, probably hoping if he ignored everything, it would go away. I moved on. I repainted my apartment, tossed the old furniture I hated, but had kept because Mom picked it, Bought plants and bookshelves and a new coffee maker, the kind I never would have splurged on before, because there was always someone else who needed something more. But not anymore. My needs weren't second anymore. They weren't even negotiable. They were mine. And I was finally taking up space in my own damn life. I started saying no, loudly, unapologetically, to extra projects that drained me, to friendly invites from people who just wanted gossip, to the neighbor who tried to rope me into a condo board drama. No, the word tasted good, like freedom. Michelle and I stayed close. We weren't just cousins, now we were co-survivors. We started calling it toxic family detox, weekly check-ins, celebratory rants, shared playlists called Scorched Earth and Healing Energy. I wish I could say I didn't miss them, my parents, my sister, but that would be a lie. You don't spend your life chasing scraps of love without leaving part of yourself behind. There were moments, still are, when I see a commercial for a Hallmark movie or walk past a Christmas display and feel that hollow ache. But then I remember, nostalgia isn't love. It's grief dressed up like memory. I wasn't grieving them. I was grieving the fantasy I fought so hard to believe in, that if I just worked harder, gave more, kept smiling through the cuts, they'd see me, choose me, love me back the way I needed. But they didn't, and they won't. That's not tragic anymore. It's just true. And truth is something I can live with. A month after the confrontation, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Handwritten in the overly neat, looped letters I'd recognize anywhere, Mom. It wasn't long. We're worried about you. This isn't you. Please come home. We miss our daughter. I stared at the word home for a long time. It was never my home. It was their house, their rules, their needs, their world. I just paid rent in guilt and gratitude. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink. Caroline tried next. A text from a new number. The kids miss you. They ask about you all the time. I sat with that one. I did love her kids. I'd been there since they were born. First teeth, Halloween costumes, scraped knees, and bedtime stories. I'd helped raise them in the background, while Caroline took all the credit. But love shouldn't be used like bait, not when it's tied to barbed wire. So I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, out of kindness to myself. And that kindness grew. I started waking up without dread, cooking for myself, walking for the sake of walking, not to escape. I applied for a promotion I never would have dared to ask for before. Got it. Went on a date, my first real one in years. And when the guy interrupted me 3 times in a row to talk about his podcast, I smiled, paid my half, and left. No drama, no over-explaining. Just no. One night, months later, I found the original Christmas card, the one that started it all. It was in a drawer I hadn't touched in ages. I held it for a second. Everyone smiling, matching sweaters. Me, nowhere. And I didn't feel sad, I laughed. Because that photo, so staged, so curated, wasn't proof of unity. It was evidence of erasure. And now, I was done being invisible. I took a Sharpie and wrote on the back, "They cropped me out, so I cropped them out of my life." Then I dropped it in the trash. And I swear, I slept like a baby that night. They still talk about me, from what I hear through the grapevine. Say I'm going through something, that I've changed. They're right. I have. I stopped performing. I stopped shrinking. I stopped bleeding for people who never bothered to bring bandages. They call me selfish now, cold, unforgiving. But I call it something else. Healing. I don't need revenge anymore. Not really. Because the best revenge wasn't the report, or the card, or the confrontation. It's this. It's peace. It's walking down the street on a sunny afternoon, knowing no one is going to call me dramatic for setting boundaries. Knowing no one is secretly draining my accounts or rewriting my story. It's freedom with no apology. They called me selfish for leaving, but I finally feel like I can breathe. And that's enough. Story 2. After stealing and smashing my car, my stepdaughter informed the police that I was the one who hit and fled. I should just take the blame for the family, my wife said. Thus I grinned, remained silent, and took this action instead. She sobbed in court 2 months later as my wife pleaded with me to pardon them. You don't anticipate having 2 police officers knock on your front door at the end of the day, particularly when you work from home most of the time, mending a leaking bathroom tap downstairs. folding clothes and sending in invoices. I realize it's a crazy day. I honestly believed there had been a mistake when I opened the door and saw their uniforms, radio conversation, and serious looks. After that, they uttered my entire name, and I was aware that this had nothing to do with a noise complaint or a neighbor's mailbox. They wanted to know whether I knew that my silver SUV had been in a hit and run that morning. I believed they were kidding, so I laughed honestly. You've got the wrong person, in my opinion. My car's in the driveway, I said. All day, I haven't left the house. One cop gave a tiny twist to his head, as if he wasn't convinced. A witness recognized your license plate, sir. Kayla, your stepdaughter, informed us that you picked up the car at approximately 9 in the morning, this morning. My mind paused for a moment. Kayla, I saw my car wasn't in the driveway as I glanced past them. The room was deserted. Then it suddenly hit me. Kayla didn't possess a vehicle. For months, she had been bothering us about it. Tracy insisted that she needed greater freedom and movement. I had volunteered to assist with driving instruction. That was controlling, Kayla said. I went outside and looked around the street in case I was having hallucinations. However, my automobile had vanished and had evidently collided with someone. The other driver is where? I inquired. A hospital? The officer answered. Not a threat to life. Fractured wrist and a brain injury. They were on a bicycle. Jesus. The driver ran away, she claimed. One of our witnesses observed the vehicle. Got the plate after following it far enough. Kayla added that it was me. Indeed. And your spouse attested to it? I was still trying to figure out how my own wife, with whom I had breakfast this morning, could possibly say she saw me take the car, so I didn't answer straight immediately. I was completely unaware that it was gone. Did she tell you that? At last, I inquired. The policeman gave a nod. Indeed, sir. According to her, Kayla stated that you were unhappy before you left, and she saw you depart at approximately 9. Additionally, she mentioned that you could have argued, and he was hesitant to say that you might have hit her. It was there. Since I was undoubtedly having hallucinations, I must have blinked around 20 times. No manner was possible. Tracy would not consent to anything like this at all. It was the same house where she was. She was aware that I was always there. Kayla, too. Kayla was intelligent. Yes, she was manipulative, but she wasn't a moron. This was a deadly falsehood if it was one. I didn't strike her. I assured her that I hadn't touched her, and that I hadn't driven that automobile anyplace today. Are you open to accompanying us for interrogation? I concurred. I did, of course. Since I was innocent, I reasoned that the truth would come to light on its own. When they closed the door, my neighbor gave me a look that made me think they had allowed me travel in the rear without cuffs. At the station, that's the type of stuff that stays with you. I requested my lawyer because it was obvious that rationality had taken a vacation, not because I had anything to conceal. I had been seated for 2 hours when Tracy eventually entered, and her face was white. Not with guilt, though. In terror, not worry that I had been falsely charged. Don't worry about the struck cyclist. Concerned that Kayla's college applications may be impacted by the circumstance, she sat across from me and apologized. However, Kayla has already panicked because she is so afraid. The best person to handle it, she replied, would be you. What did she say? Almost laughing, I asked. You would take care of it for the family, she added, and you would know how to mend it. I gazed at her. I didn't take the automobile, you know. I spent the entire morning with you. She took a swallow. Yes, but things have changed since then. The bruising stopped me cold, and there's a police complaint. What kind of bruise? Her arm is bruised from the collision, Tracy stated. She said that during a fight you grabbed her and then hurried away after striking her. So, let me clarify. I began carefully. Your daughter informs the authorities that I was the driver after stealing my car, crashing it, and running away. Furthermore, you, my wife, who may serve as my alibi, choose to support her account and suggest that I am aggressive. Tracy winced. Until we figure it out, that is. I replied there was nothing to figure out. She told a falsehood, and you told her a lie? She's afraid. She was wrong. I gave her a direct look. You did too. Across the table, she stretched for my hand. For now, just accept the blame, please. Later, we'll repair it. Slowly, I withdrew my hand, calmly. I stopped talking at that point. I gave a little smile. Because being deceived has the benefit of making things clear. It lets you know who is on your side and who is prepared to kill you for someone else's error. I was supposed to take the autumn, they said. Yes, but not in the manner they had anticipated. It's amusing. 6 years ago, I would have been asked if I wanted children. I would have most likely shrugged and mumbled something ambiguous. As in, if it occurs, it does. In your 30s, you say something like that when you haven't completely ruled it out, but also haven't placed it on your vision board. Then I got to know Tracy. She had intelligence, self-assurance, and a dry, sometimes cruel sense of humor. On our second date, she also had a 13-year-old daughter called Kayla, who treated me like a substitute teacher who was unable to operate the projector. Tracy told me that she just wanted a partner who could deal with things without becoming strange, not a father figure for her child. I chuckled. I'm very good at not getting strange, I remarked, which, looking back, is among the strangest things someone could say. However, we managed to work. 6 months later, Tracy slept out on the couch while I assisted Kayla with her mathematics homework. Halfway into the documentary, I learned what a TikTok dance was, quickly regretted it, prepared pancakes on the weekends, took Kayla to volleyball practice, and gradually began to become a presence in their lives. I didn't think she would call me dad. I had no intention of replacing anyone. In this sense, distant satellites are theoretically present, but not in a way that aids in GPS operation. Her biological father was still alive. However, I was there every day. I paid for school clothing and braces. When she reached 16 and began making references to taking driving lessons, she broke the phone twice in a single semester. I volunteered to instruct her. It's what real parents do, she remarked, rolling her eyes, and turned to go. I assured myself that it didn't hurt. It made a small difference. I continued to turn up, though. Tracy continually assured me that Kayla would change her mind. She would answer that she simply has a strong personality, as though that were a compliment. Because she is intelligent, she pushes limits, which is, I suppose, one way to reinvent herself as spoilt and manipulating. I was in it for the long run, though. It takes time to build a family. I reasoned that if I continued to be reliable, encouraging, stable, and unyielding, I would finally gain her trust. Not at all, spoiler warning. If anything, she became more adept at using her mother as a human shield as she grew older. Kayla missed curfew because of my strange restrictions. If her grades suffered, it was as a result of my pestering her about her schoolwork. If I ever had the courage to refuse, with a theatrical sigh, she would accuse me of being domineering. Tracy always makes things easier. I was always warned not to escalate. She has the capacity to divert any discussion from responsibility. Kayla was passionate if she screamed. It was terror if she lied. If, during a dispute, she flung a hairbrush against the wall. This is a true tale. Hormones were the only cause. I initially justified it. Adolescent females are challenging. Mixed. Families are challenging. Perhaps I simply needed to have more patience. So I gave it a go. I helped her apply to college, paid for SAT, tutoring, attended all of the parent-teacher conferences, and purchased a used car in my name that I intended to give to her after she obtained a license and insurance. She blamed me for the collision with the person in that automobile. Yes, that one. Tracy insisted that once Kayla grew up, things would be different. Eventually, they all get over it, she said. Simply give her room. And I did. I gave her room. I shared my Saturdays with her. I handed my car to her. With the exception of a direct deposit, I gave her everything. She also attempted to frame me for a felony in exchange. The image of Tracy sitting across from me, wringing her hands as if she were the victim and expressing fear that she made a mistake, has been on my mind for weeks. No, dropping your phone in the toilet is a mistake. Forgetting to turn in your college application by the due date is an error. It is not an error to steal someone else's vehicle, run from the scene of an accident, and accuse someone of assault. It's a tactic. Tracy, too. She didn't simply comply with it. She reaffirmed it. She filled in the blanks. She was asked by the police if she had witnessed my departure that morning. Yes, she replied. He was upset, she said, looking them in the eye. I assumed he simply needed to vent. Exhaust? She claimed that I was responding to work emails and folding towels in the laundry room at the time. Making coffee with 2 shots of espresso rather than 1 was the most defiant thing I had done that morning. But they had a story, so it didn't matter. It was also interesting, easy to use. It's better to give up the dull, dependable stepfather than to allow the golden child's future to fall apart due to real repercussions. I stopped being nice then. Not in public, not in a big way. I still paid the bills, still took out the trash, still sent polite texts like "hope your meeting went well." But behind the scenes, I got quiet, strategic. I spoke to my lawyer. I requested every shred of traffic camera footage available. I pulled text logs, timestamps, receipts. I froze the joint account and opened a new one. Transferred my paycheck. Removed Tracy's access to every login she used to ignore but rely on power. Gas, Wi-Fi, all in my name. I started documenting everything, because if they wanted a villain, I'd give them one. Just not the kind they were expecting. Getting accused of a hit and run is one thing. Getting accused of it by your stepdaughter who stole your car is another. But having your wife back her up, that does something to you. Not in a loud, rage-filled way. It's quieter, colder, like something inside you shuts off so you can finally stop making excuses for people who don't deserve them. After that day at the station, I stopped asking why they do it, why they lie, why no one seemed to care about the one person who paid the mortgage, kept the lights on, filled the fridge, and tried. God help me to be a good stepdad. I didn't need the answers anymore. I just needed proof. It started with the traffic cameras. Turns out when you're accused of a crime, you're allowed to request footage through my lawyer. We obtained 2 glorious angles of my SUV blowing through a red light near the intersection where the cyclist was hit. And guess what? The driver wasn't me. It wasn't even hard to tell. Kayla was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, but she was barely tall enough to see over the wheel. Her side profile was unmistakable, and better yet, she was laughing in the footage. You could literally see her mouth open wide, mid-length, right before she swerved around the corner. Beautiful. But I didn't stop there. My lawyer, bless him, told me to dig deeper. It's not just about proving you didn't do it. It's about proving she knew she was lying. So I went through her social media. Kayla had locked down her Instagram stories and TikTok after the incident, but teenagers are terrible at privacy. A friend of hers had reposted clips from that same morning. Kayla getting ready, holding keys up to the camera with the caption steps, "SUV today." There was even a boomerang of her and her friend pretending to drift the steering wheel in my driveway. Then came the party footage because of course there was a party. Turns out, right before the accident, Kayla had picked up 2 friends. They were heading to some graduation breakfast that in true adolescent form evolved into music, booze, and a fair bit of commotion. One of those pals went live for 30s before the collision, just long enough to record Kayla humming along to a song while driving, flipping the camera to see the road and the red light she raced through. After the collision, they panicked. The pal removed the video, but nothing is ever completely deleted. Another individual screen captured it, sent it to someone who forwarded it to someone else, and ultimately it came in my email with a subject line that just stated, "Thought you should see this." Oh, I did. Meanwhile, back at home, Tracy and Kayla were still pretending everything was tight but recoverable. Kayla lingered in her room, milking the bruise on her arm like it was a battle damage. Tracy tiptoed about me like I was a dangerous animal. She even had the gall to suggest, if you'd simply gone along with it, things wouldn't be so unpleasant now. Uncomfortable. You falsely charged me of criminal assault and vehicular hit and run, and I'm the reason dinner's awkward. However, I nodded and grinned. "You're correct," I said. "I've been self-centered." I completed backing up all the data that evening, duplicated the video files, and timestamped each post and picture. I gave everything to my attorney, who then gave everything to the case's detective. 3 days was all that was needed. It was 3 days before to my formal clearance. The accusations against me were withdrawn 3 days prior to Kayla being charged with new ones. Strike and flee, making a fictitious police report, driving without a permit, because, unexpected, I was unaware of a speeding ticket that resulted in her suspension. Additionally, Tracy wasn't exempt either. She had made up a statement, told falsehoods about where I was, supported a claim that she was aware was untrue. They started using the word blockage. Tracy appeared to have seen a ghost. When the police returned to the residence to interview them, "What did you do?" Her eyes were wide as she asked. "I took a drink of my coffee." "What did you do, by the way?" She came into the kitchen after me, as if I had to explain myself to her. "It was not necessary for you to travel so far." I chuckled. "You made an attempt to frame me for a crime. It was a single error. By putting myself under the bus, I was attempting to shield her. Is that how you define protection?" "She's my daughter," said Tracy. "What should I have done? You were expected to be honest." She gave me the impression that she had never thought about that. After that, she said something that gave me the chills. "She is only a child. Her entire future lies ahead of her. You've grown up. You would live." I'm not sure if she understood what she said. Perhaps she did. She could have meant it. It was the final nail in the coffin, nonetheless. "You don't matter." That's what she was actually saying. You are expendable. Your life, your career, and your reputation. It was all worth it to maintain her daughter's good reputation. I replaced the locks that evening. I couldn't legally keep them out for good. It was a beginning, but not yet. Additionally, I transferred all of the money from our joint account to a new one in my name. "Did you report the vehicle as stolen?" "Because it was froze, let's be honest." She arranged an appointment with the divorce lawyer and used the credit cards that were available to her. The finest aspect? I said nothing to her. As the court date drew nearer, I let her to stew in the quiet. Kayla hired a lawyer. Tracy attempted to resolve the matter amicably with the DA. By claiming that there had been a misunderstanding, the DA refused. It turns out that prosecutors take offense when you accuse someone of a criminal and have video proof to show that the accusation is untrue. I was dressed in a gray suit on the day of the court appearance. Shaved, clean, composed face. Kayla arrived with swollen eyes. Tracy held on to her hand as if her life depended on it. The second before we entered, Tracy drew me away. "Please, don't let this ruin our family," she implored. I gave her a direct glance. "No family exists. The day you decided I was disposable, you ruined it," I remarked. After that, I entered the courtroom. I didn't turn around. I was surprised by how quiet the court was. Don't yell. No drama about law and order. Only uncomfortable chairs and fluorescent lights, and a judge who appeared to prefer being somewhere else. With her hair curled, Kayla and her lawyer sat 2 rows ahead of me. It hardly smudged the mascara. She was making a great effort to appear innocent. It was almost like a play at school. However, there were actual charges associated with this one, along with the potential for community service or even juvenile detention. With her hands clasped tightly in her lap, Tracy sat next to her. She kept looking at me, as if I might decide to change my mind in the middle of the conversation, get up, and declare that everything had been a huge misunderstanding. As if I would play the hero and spare them both from the repercussions of their own baking and serving. I didn't. Spoiler alert. The charges were read by the judge, providing false statements and hitting and running. Driving a car without a license has expired. Then handed the floor to Kayla. Her attorney got up. "Your Honor, my customer feels bad about her choices." She felt afraid. She was in a hurry and didn't mean to hurt anyone. Just as expected, Kayla sniffed. Theatrical. The attempt was nearly admirable. Then she said it. "My stepdad took things farther than I had anticipated. He never lost his cool. I assumed he would comprehend. I believed he would keep us safe." "Us?" That word hit my chest like a ton of bricks. It was because of what it verified, not because of what she intended. They never considered me a human being, only a useful tool, a bonus dad badge on a walking ATM. When it was convenient for them, they could flash. I was asked whether I had anything to say by the court. I stood because I wanted to face them both in the eye when I said it, not because I had to. For the past 6 years, I've worked hard to be a decent parent and husband. In addition to driving her to school and paying the bills, I also covered the cost of groceries, insurance, tutors, phones, and treatment applications. She didn't open. I arrived. Even though I wasn't wanted, I was there. I stopped. Kayla refused to look at me. Tracy was weeping already. I didn't anticipate being criticized, but I also didn't anticipate being complimented. not by the people in particular. I gave up all to help. I took a seat. That was it. No dramatics, no yelling. Simply said the truth. Kayla was given a suspended sentence with community service requirements by the judge, a formal letter of apology, and 6 months of therapy for the biker. The state university dorm she boasted about last year would not be providing her with that. Tracy. A court warning was given to her. No fees. However, the DA referred to her actions as extremely troubling, which is against the law. You're fortunate that we don't want to spend any more tax dollars on your mess. Tracy then made one final attempt to speak with me. When I got to the parking lot, she followed me. I apologize, she murmured, her voice trembling. I was at a loss for what to do. Slowly, I nodded. Is that what you did? No. You just ignored the truth in favor of Kayla. She is my daughter. She repeated herself, as if it were a spell she wished would make things better. I was also your spouse. She didn't respond. I climbed into my vehicle. The one Kayla totaled was replaced, the one that she was never meant to operate. Then, for the final time, I drove off. However, it wasn't the end. Not even close. Update. Since I initially posted this, a lot has transpired. We appreciate all of the comments. I received a ton of mails, really. I should have gone to scorched earth, according to some, while others say I handled it with grace. I was chilly, some claimed. Some referred to me as a monster who destroyed the life of a teenage girl. To tell the truth, I had no intention of saying anything more. However, I reasoned that a little closure wouldn't hurt after everything that had transpired. Here's the latest information. I didn't give them the house to start. Why would I? I made the down payment. Each month, I managed the mortgage. My name was constantly involved. Tracy was never involved in the crime. She paid exactly 0% of the bills. It also seemed kind enough that I didn't sue her for obstruction or slander when she accused me of a criminal. I thus maintained the house. I gave her 30 days to vacate, 45, assuming she could demonstrate that she had nowhere to go. In 29, she moved out. Kayla, too. Surprisingly, they were totally reliant on me for their financial needs. Thus, they had nowhere else to go. No savings, no employment, no contingency plan. Tracy, using a cutesy term for my salary, had become accustomed to live on what she termed a mixed budget. She got discounts on clothing she previously didn't need by working part-time at a friend's store. Kayla was still debating whether to enroll in college or take a gap year to concentrate on personal development, which allegedly meant lying about the home and requesting money from DoorDash. Reality struck quickly once I reclaimed the house and prevented them from accessing the accounts. Tracy was forced to temporarily live with her sister. Kayla wound up on a couch belonging to a friend. Through rumors, I learned that Kayla had taken a job at a nearby cafe. I fought the want to visit. Seldom. After word spread about what she and Kayla did, filing a false report and attempting to frame someone for a hit and run, Tracy's social circle fell silent, despite her best efforts to persuade her boutique friend to give her more hours. It seems that wine nights and Pilates classes don't go well together when you frame your spouse. She even lost contact with her best friend, who used to call me such a solid guy at every dinner party. I didn't require retribution. They destroyed themselves. Slowly, in humiliating ways, their lives became more difficult. The kind where you forget the car wasn't magically paid off and it gets repossessed. The kind that terminates the phone plan because it was registered in my name. The type of health insurance application where you have to reapply and discover that you have never completed that type of paperwork on your own. According to what I've heard, Kayla stopped attending her court-mandated therapy and was told to return or perform additional community service. She probably struggles with self-reflection. I continue to reside in the house. Now it's quiet, calm. I started cycling again, got a new dog, and redrew the office. My neighbors, indeed. When they learnt the truth, the same people who witnessed me being led to a police vehicle started avoiding me. You handled that better than I would have. One person even stated, bringing over a bottle of whiskey. I'm not resentful either. I just finished. I devoted all of my time, money, patience, and love to that family, and they didn't hesitate to select the falsehood when the time came to decide between protecting me and defending a lie. As a result, I left with my name, a mortgage, and a proud head. Now that I know no one else is plotting my demise in the guest room, I pay with joy. As I already stated, there are still others who believe that I went too far and destroyed a young girl's future in a panic. They could be correct. Perhaps I am the villain. What are your thoughts? Comment in the space provided below. Story 3. I gave my sister my laptop so she could use it for a short assignment. She had erased everything on the hard drive, including my work, my pictures, and everything I had ever stored. By the time I got it back, I had to get my laptop back immediately. It wasn't only an outdated PC that I hardly ever used. It was my whole existence. Financial information, work papers, personal paperwork, and years' worth of memories captured in images and videos. It included all I had created and labored for. I had critical deadlines to meet, a customer assignment with a less than 1 week deadline. I wouldn't be paid if I didn't complete it. I also needed the money. Missing this deadline would leave me much further behind on my payments, which I was already on the verge of. Furthermore, there were items on that laptop that were irreplaceable. A set of diaries I had been preserving for many years. My own works. I had drafted things that I had never told anybody about. Everything that was important to me was kept on my laptop. It was now seated in my sister's room. Lisa had promised it would be quick, so that was the only reason I had let her take it. She wanted to finish a job, but she didn't want to use her personal computer for whatever reason. She had pleaded and said she would take care of it. Only a few hours were required. 3 days have passed since then. She continued to ignore me even after I phoned, texted, and knocked on her door. Later, I'll bring it to you. I have one final task to complete. Quit being so theatrical. I'll return it, I said. I ought to have realized that something wasn't right. She was resting on her bed, browsing through her phone, as if she had no worries at all. When I eventually made it inside her room, on her desk, my laptop was closed, as if it had not been touched in hours. I took it without a question. Now I need this. She hardly raised her head. All right. I felt nervous because of the nonchalant way she stated it. She didn't apologize for keeping it longer than she had said she would. No. I appreciate you allowing her to use it. Just all right. As if it weren't significant. As I made my way back to my room, I switched it open, intending to start working as soon as it loaded up. However, I halted when the login page appeared, and I appeared different. The default backdrop was used. The user was the generic login name. That was incorrect. My name, my backdrop, and my settings were all personalized. As I entered my password, a chill went up my spine. It was unsuccessful. I gave it another go. The password is incorrect. I made a third attempt, more slowly, with caution. Still incorrect. My heart began to race. When I chose to reset it, the previously available forgot password option was gone. It seemed as though the laptop was unaware that I had an account. As I pushed myself to launch the file explorer, a sinking sensation took hold of me. It was deserted. Not simply a few folders are missing. It was all gone. My palms were chilly on the keyboard as I sat there looking at the blank screen. This must have been an error. Perhaps my data were still there because she had somehow entered into a guest account. I browsed through every setting and menu in an attempt to find something that seemed familiar. However, it became worse the more I looked. Like a brand new laptop, it had no installed software, stored logins, or browser history. My whole body stiffened. I hurried inside Lisa's room after pushing back from my desk. How on earth did you accomplish that? She let out a deep sigh and set her phone down. What are you discussing? I raised my laptop. My files are missing. She rolled her eyes and sat up. Oh, that. I cleaned it. At first, the words didn't make sense. I only stood there and gave her a blink. What do you have? She said. I reset it, as if it were the most commonplace thing ever. I performed a factory reset since it was operating slowly. Now it's better. My throat constricted. You ruined everything, Lisa. She scowled as if she didn't know why I was so angry. Yes, but it's all right. I take it. You can simply re-download your files? Pi-related material. Now my voice was trembling. My work was there, Lisa. My pictures, my private papers. Everything, she chuckled. This kind of laughter was amusing, as if I were exaggerating. Sarah, it's only a computer. For crying out loud, calm down. Something broke inside of me. All my life, I had been there for her, lending her money while her rent was low. When she was too indolent to use the bus, she drove herself about. I never asked for anything in return, just let her take and take and take. And now the one thing that I really cared about, she had brushed it away as if it didn't exist. Why? Now my voice was harsh yet hushed. You reset it, but why? She paused for a split second, long enough for me to realize that something was wrong with me. She wasn't giving me all the details. Lisa, I took a step closer. On my PC, what were you doing? She laughed. I required it for a project, like I mentioned. Which project? One more hesitancy. Just a work-related item. She was telling lies. Lisa didn't hesitate. She was always coming up with an explanation, an excuse, or a means to make herself appear innocent. She was anxious now, though. I was anticipating an apology when I came in here. I had been upset, angry at her for being so irresponsible, so self-centered. Now, however, I was beginning to notice something else now. My laptop was operating slowly, so she did more than simply wipe it off. She didn't want me to see what was on it, so she wiped it. My breath caught. What did you erase, Lisa? Her gaze strayed. Nothing. I didn't think she was real. Now my heart was racing. Something worse replacing the original shock. Lisa wasn't the only one acting carelessly. She wasn't being entitled here. She had something to conceal, and I was about to discover what. With my heart pounding in my ears, I hurried back to my room and shut the door. My laptop was empty and sitting open on my desk. Dead, stripped of all that was important. I was ill. Lisa lied. I was aware. She had done more than simply restart my laptop. What a pitiful excuse. She didn't want me to notice something. I mentally went over the time frame. Her request to borrow it was limited to a few hours. Then she continued to stall when I attempted to retrieve it. And everything was gone now that I had it. I couldn't let this pass. I picked up my phone and began looking for methods for data recovery. A factory reset had to be reversible somehow. I used my work computer to download file recovery software onto a USB drive after reading a few tech forums that advised doing so. While I waited for the scan to finish, I connected it to my laptop. After a few minutes, crop data was discovered. I straightened my posture and browsed the results. Some of the file names were still somewhat intact, but the most of it was unintelligible trash. I went cold. Transfer _0924 for the invoice. Take into consideration the deposit _ statement. Money. You are welcome to come over, I scowled. My files didn't sound like these. Nothing I had ever owned was marked invoice or payment record. The file was totally ruined when I clicked on one of them. Unreadable. I clenched my fingers around the laptop. Lisa had erased a financial-related item. What had she been doing on my computer anyway? Digging deeper, I performed another check to see if there was anything more that could possibly be salvageable. However, everything else had been too thoroughly removed. Lisa had seen to that. I tried to calm my breathing as I sat back. I have to work this out. Lisa wasn't only irresponsible. Files that weren't even mine had been purposefully deleted by her. This implied that she had done something she didn't want anyone to know about using my laptop. I had to find out what now. I discovered 3 missed calls from Lisa when I got up the next morning. She must have seen that I hadn't replied to her since the previous evening. Lisa, really, are you still angry? Who is only a reset? Lisa, move on. You're being crazy, according to Mom. She wishes to speak with you. Lisa. Sarah, please stop ignoring me, Jesus. What's wrong with you? My jaw tensed as I gazed at the texts. I was well aware of her actions. She was attempting to manipulate this situation so that it would appear like I was exaggerating. Make it seem as though I was at fault. Normal, Lisa. I chose to ignore her texts and made my way directly to my folks' house. Although I hadn't wanted to engage them yet, I knew that if I didn't get ahead of Lisa, she would already start fabricating her version of events. Like they usually did, they would side with her. Mom opened the door when I knocked. Anger was already pinching at her face. Sarah? Really? With a sigh, she moved aside to make room for me. Lisa explained the situation to me. You're exaggerating the situation. I tightened my jaw. My laptop was completely erased by her. Mom, intentionally, not by chance. She also refuses to explain why. Mom folded her arms. I was just trying to help, she stated. She believed it would improve its operation. She's telling lies. Mom looked at me wearily. You always think she's the worst. I genuinely laughed. She's been taking advantage of me all my life, Mom. I give her things. They are ruined by her. I assist her. She never pays me back. She has now thoroughly cleaned my laptop. And I'm just expected to think she was assisting? Mom gave a headshake. Sarah, you have to let it go. The deflection, the gaslighting, and the justification for Lisa's actions were all the same. I inhaled deeply while trying to maintain my composure. All right, do you want me to forget about it? Then instruct Lisa to explain her actions on my laptop in detail. Mom paused. It makes no difference. It matters. After doing a recovery scan and discovering evidence of bank records, bills, payment records, and other items that weren't mine, I was able to speak clearly again. Mom's face momentarily froze. She was aware of something. You, she began, then stopped herself. Lisa informed me that you would develop some absurd notion. I moved in closer. Mom, what do you know? Her lips were squeezed together. Nothing. Just, please don't attempt to make this into a major controversy. A sinking sensation was felt in my chest. She wasn't only protecting Lisa, she was keeping her safe. Without saying another word, I turned and rushed up the stairs to Lisa's room. Lisa looked up to see me. While she was looking through her phone on her bed, she let out a moan. Sarah, I'm very sorry. Now what? Behind me, I slammed the door. On my PC, what were you doing? Lisa gave an eye roll. Never again. You erased financial documents. For what purpose were they used? She paused. I caught it, although it was short. I pushed ahead. Didn't you do anything criminal with my laptop? Lisa laughed. You're truly insane, wow. Then show me incorrectly. I folded my arms. What specifically were you working on, please? Lisa looked at me for a while. Then she grinned and put her phone down. All right. Do you want the truth? My stomach turned over. Lisa stretched out, as if she had endless time as she lay back against the headboard. She stated I was assisting a buddy. I had to use a clean gadget, and he needed a means to transfer some cash. My blood froze. My gadget, a clean device. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Lisa smiled as if she was having fun. Calm down. It's not a big deal. A few bills, some fast deposits, and some minor business matters. Not a huge deal. I gazed at her. You use my laptop to do financial transactions? Lisa gave a shrug. I wanted a secure method. I had the feeling that I might get sick. Lisa, what the devil did you do? She chuckled. I laughed. You sound like I'm in charge of some sort of criminal organization, Sarah. It's only an incident. It's not even against the law. I wanted to give her a shake. Why did you clean my PC then? I lost my temper. If race wasn't a crime, why are you racializing everything? Lisa's smile wavered slightly. I moved in closer. Didn't you get caught? Her gaze strayed. That was it. That was the reality. After being afraid, after getting entangled in anything nefarious, Lisa used my laptop to hide her identity. She erased the evidence after realizing it may be traced back to her. Not only had my laptop been a getaway vehicle, but I was now involved in whatever crime Lisa had gotten herself into. I stood there looking at Lisa as if I had never seen her before, breathing in short gasps. I had been used by her. She had endangered me. She didn't even give a damn. She gave me a sly smile as if this were all a joke. She stretched languidly as if she had endless time and murmured, "You should relax. You're behaving as though I broke into the government." My fist tightened. You erased everything on my hard disk, Lisa. Are you aware of the gravity of this situation? She gave an eye roll. You're quite theatrical. It was only a small business matter, as I mentioned. It's not really important, I spoke in a tense voice. Then describe what you did in detail. Lisa snorted after giving me a long, deliberate glance. Why are you even concerned? Are the files no longer there? You can't really prove anything. My stomach twisted for some reason. That was it. She wasn't simply ignoring me. She was sure she had gotten away with it. She was aware that there wouldn't be much left after all the digging. My thoughts were racing. She had made financial transactions on my laptop. However, why? With whom was she collaborating? What had she done that required her to wipe everything out? She was not going to give me any more answers. Not in this manner. I pivoted on my heel. We're not finished. She laughed sarcastically. Yes. Detective Sarah, whatever you say. I slammed the door behind me as I left, ignoring her. I began my study as soon as I returned to my flat. Lisa had been transferring funds. Some vestige of it had to exist. Although she may have cleaned my laptop, she was unable to remove anything. I started looking into it after logging onto my phone's email. My heart stopped there a few minutes later. I had never seen a bank notice before. My stomach turned to confirm when I clicked on it. Transfer of accounts. $4,500 was the successful sum. The day prior it had been mailed. My laptop was returned to me. My heart thumped. $4,500. Lost. I didn't recognize the account number that was given in the email. My name was not the sender. Lisa had transferred money in someone else's name using my laptop. This was whose account? Where is the money now? With trembling palms, I continued to scroll. Another $2,200 mail deposit was received. Transaction ID, I paused. This money was coming in. Money had been sent to an account connected to my laptop by someone. Reaching for my phone, I dialed my bank. Hello. I believe my account has been the victim of fraud, I said, struggling to maintain a steady voice. I have to report a transaction that was not authorized. I knew what the representative on the other end would say before they even began to ask questions. The account that was credited with funds. It was fresh. It was connected to my laptop and had just been made. My data hadn't been erased by Lisa. My identity had been exploited by her. My blood froze. My digital footprint was used for the transactions. My IP address. Whoever transferred that money was sought after. They came to find me. I required further details. I needed to find out what fraud Lisa had been involved in before it was too late. I remembered what she had said. I was assisting a buddy. Who? There were no friends for Lisa. Not authentic ones. She took advantage of others. She only interacted with those who were beneficial to her. I retrieved her social media accounts. She had always posted excessively carelessly online while pretending no one was seeing. I went through her most recent posts, searching for anything unusual. Then I noticed a remark from an unfamiliar identity beneath one of her postings. The money arrived, we're ready. I felt sick to my stomach. I selected the profile. It was confidential. No true name. No crisp images. However, one word in their bio stood out, investments. My chest constricted. Lisa had been handling another person's money. I used Google to look for the username. I wasn't shocked, but nothing came up. The identities of scammers were not precisely authentic. I tried looking up terms like money flipping scheme and investment scam. I discovered it at that point. A story from the previous year. In a fraudulent investment scheme, victims lose thousands of dollars. Authorities are looking into it. I gave it a click. My hands are perspiring. My suspicion was confirmed by the story. A phony company that made big profit promises, deceiving others into making a deposit. To cover their tracks, the con artist would transfer the funds across accounts. Furthermore, the victims had already lost the money when they became aware that they had been duped. I was ill. Lisa had been using my laptop to assist a fraudster in money laundering. My pulse was racing as I sat back and stared at the TV. It wasn't only Lisa's carelessness. I had been pulled into something illegal by her. I required evidence. She was a part of a fraud. She would ultimately be caught. And I would be caught with her if I didn't take quick action. I picked up my phone and called Lisa. She sounded irritated as she heard the third ring. Now what? Who is he? I insisted. Lisa hesitated. Who? The man with whom you have been collaborating. You made those transfers for me, and I lost it. The person who used my laptop to send you money? Who is he? Lisa. A little quiet. Then Lisa laughed breathlessly. Are you really looking into this? God, you are pitiful. My stomach turned over. She was not even trying to deny it. I held onto my phone. I could call the police. A second delay, then icily. No, you won't. I paused. Lisa's voice had become hushed. Risky. You won't speak because you'll fall with me if you do. I took a deep breath. He was correct. The digital footprint, the IP address, and the transactions. Everything pointed to my laptop. Lisa had seen to that. and I was the one who would appear guilty if I turned her in now. I tightened my jaw. "Do you think I'll overlook this?" Lisa chuckled. She said, "Sarah, face it. You're stuck." She hung up after that. I sat there with my knuckles white from holding my phone so tightly. I had been allowing Lisa to get away with everything for years. However, this time, I wasn't going to let her win this time. That night, I didn't get any sleep. I couldn't stop hearing Lisa's voice. "Sarah, you have to face it. You're stuck." And I truly felt it for the first time. I had been tidying up after Lisa all my life, taking care of the mess she left. However, this was neither a lost jumper or champagne that had spilt on my carpet. She vowed not to take. She had pulled me into what was a crime. I sat looking at the bank and the little light from my laptop screen. Confirmations of transactions. $4,500 was moved out. I got $2,200. The distinction, lost, not a trace, no justification. Numbers that lead nowhere. My laptop was linked to Lisa, who had used it to transfer funds through an account that wasn't in my name. Whoever had been in charge of these transactions was sought after. It finds me first. I quickly went over the worst-case possibilities in my head. Can I call the police? Why hadn't I been involved, could I? What evidence did I have, though? Everything had been cleaned by Lisa. The incomplete email records were the only reason I was even aware of the moves. And I may appear guilty even from those. A chilly notion took root in my gut. What if Lisa had already done this? What if she had employed someone else to hide her identity in addition to me? I had to know the extent of this. I made another call to my bank the next morning. I requested further information on the moves. I pretended that I had spotted something strange and wanted to confirm that my account was free of fraud. On the other end, the representative paused. "We are unable to provide information on third-party accounts, ma'am." I tightened my jaw. Even if my device was the one that started the transaction. You can, however, make a fraud claim if you think there has been unlawful behavior. I felt sick to my stomach. They would launch an inquiry if I did that. And Lisa was the result of inquiries, and for a little moment, Lisa led me back. I had the impression that I was perched on a precipice. I could be safe if I left right immediately, if I kept my lips shut and let Lisa get away with this. However, there was no way of knowing what I would discover or what Lisa would do if I persisted in my investigation and attempted to stop her. With my pulse racing, I believe the rapper hung up. I knew exactly where to begin, and I needed another approach to acquire answers. Lisa acted carelessly. She had been all along. One individual had been conned by her. Most likely, she has committed other scams. Additionally, if there were additional victims, it's possible that one of them had already begun to piece things together. I returned to her social media profile and read through the comments on her posts. The username that had typed money and that I had previously seen appeared. "We're ready." Remained, but suddenly something had changed. A separate person has left a fresh remark beneath one of Lisa's pictures. "Where's my deposit, please? You're ignoring my messages even though I paid you the money 2 weeks ago." I select the profile. Unlike the others, who all had anonymous usernames, this person had a genuine name. His postings primarily included images of pricey watches and vehicles, and his profile was simple. Then I noticed it though. 3 days ago, this post was made. These days, they would steal your money and then vanish. I remember though, that the caption made me shiver. This guy, whomever he was, wasn't merely upset. He was trying to find Lisa. My thoughts were racing as I sat back. Lisa hadn't just erased all of the transaction data from my laptop. I was drawn into the situation because she was fleeing from someone. I knew she had taken something from the wrong person, but I had no idea what type of fraud she had committed. Now I had to speak with her. I clutched the driving wheel till my fingers hurt as I drove to my parents' house. I had to have leverage since Lisa was not going to talk voluntarily. I knew she was in trouble since I had seen enough. She believed that I could reveal her. Perhaps, just possibly, I could force her to tidy up her mess before it became an issue for me. Without knocking, I raced in the front door. Mom was stirring something on the stove in the kitchen. She hardly looked up. "Sarah, oh, here to start another fight," she remarked bluntly. I paid her no attention. "Lisa, where are you?" Pointing to the backyard from Mom's side. Most likely on her phone, wasting her life. Excellent. As I pushed through the sliding glass door, I saw Lisa browsing through her phone while reclining in a lounge chair. She seems totally unconcerned, as if she wasn't destroying lives, as if she weren't in serious peril. I immediately approached her and grabbed the phone. "What the heck, hey?" Glaring at me, she sat up. "Return that." I kept it out of my grasp. "Who is the man trying to find?" "You." She froze. I only needed that assurance. I flung her phone onto the adjacent chair. The statement caught my attention. "He's not content." "Lisa, what did you do?" She made an effort to chuckle, but it was insincere. "Nothing. It's just that some individual had the wrong notion." I crossed my arms. "I am aware that you were transferring funds, Lisa. Before you erased my laptop, I could see the transactions." "You don't think I'd notice?" She tightened her jaw. I said, "You're going to repair this." "Now," Lisa laughed. "And how precisely do you believe I should do that?" I forced myself to remain cool and took a deep breath. "You'll figure up a method to give the money back." Lisa chuckled. In fact, I laughed. "Yes, of course. Thousands of money will magically appear out of thin air. Sounds fantastic." I gazed at her. "Work things out." She gave an eye roll. "Sarah, God." "Yes, you are," I interrupted her. "Or I'll spill the beans to my parents. I'll tell them about the phony investment scheme, the money laundering, and how you use my laptop to carry it out. And I won't keep you safe when that person finds you." For the first time, Lisa's face became pale. She seemed frightened. She looked aside and swallowed hard. "You wouldn't." I remained silent. I simply stared at her. We were silent for a long time. She finally exhaled a trembling breath. "All right." It was a beginning, but not much. With a pounding heart, I turned and left. Lisa had chosen the wrong people to meddle with. No. The experience of being left to clean up her own mess was about to come to her. I wish I could say it ended there. That after Lisa's fright, everything was resolved and things returned to normal. However, it was not the case. Nothing was fixed by Lisa. She took off running. A week following my confrontation with her, she vanished, blocked my phone number, ceased visiting our parents' home, disappeared. My parents first believed that I was exaggerating. Lisa was simply keeping quiet. Even though they said she always recovered, they were concerned when her landlord contacted to inquire about her whereabouts. Then her employer phoned. The cops came last. I still don't fully understand Lisa's actions. I know this, but I doubt I ever will. I had underestimated the number of individuals she was defrauding. Eventually, one of them made the decision to pursue her. Lisa was not only managing a straightforward financial plan, she was laundering money that had been stolen. I'm not sure how far she had gone, but I wasn't the reason she was apprehended. The reason for this was that one of the investors who had been duped traced everything back to her, as well as when the authorities began excavating. Her name was all over the place. She had been transferring funds via fictitious companies, invoices, and investments. The sums were enormous, perhaps tens of thousands. 4 months later, she was taken into custody. I was not there at her trial. I read the news stories my parents had told me about. When the court records were made public, I even read them. Lisa received a 4-year jail term for identity theft, wire fraud, and financial fraud. What's the worst? Even while inside, she still owed every money she had taken. Lisa's debt was overwhelming her. Our folks were heartbroken. Mom still thought it was all an error. Dad was simply worn out. Me? I was finished. I had dedicated my entire life to tidying up Lisa's mess. The first one I didn't have to fix was this one. I felt free for the first time in years. I began over, concentrated on my career, and even relocated to a new flat. At last, my life was mine. 3 years later, Lisa got in touch. The day she vanished was the last time I had spoken to her. However, I received a note unexpectedly one day. "Lisa? Hey, next month I'll be out. Can we have a conversation? I spent a lot of time staring at my phone. I'm not sure what I anticipated feeling. Anger, sadness, relief. But I just felt worn out." She sent another message a month later. "Lisa, I've evolved. I only want to see you, I promise." She gave a call. I didn't answer. She sent an email, but I didn't respond. The issue with Lisa's. She was continually coming up with something. I'm not sure if she genuinely apologized or if she was just in need of something from me once more. To be honest, though, I no longer give a damn. Since then, I haven't spoken to her. Perhaps she has changed after all. Perhaps she hasn't. I'll never be certain. However, I am aware of this. I don't have to find out for the first time in my life. And I think that's plenty.